Hello everybody, this is me, Amin.
And this is Alex.
And welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About. And in this episode, we're going to talk about we're talking about when will Apple make a foldable iPhone. So the reason why we're talking about this is because it is the 14th of September, the day that we're recording this show. And last week, Apple launched a series of new devices. Obviously, it's the much anticipated iPhone 14 series. They launched a pair of new AirPods, and also the Apple Watch Series 8 and the Apple Watch Ultra. I think that's like a completely new Apple Watch thing, design and everything. Now, we've been following the build-up to the iPhone launch very closely. The team has been watching the announcement keynote in the early hours of the morning. I think it was 1 a.m. And there was a lot of anticipation and excitement coming into the launch of the iPhone 14, simply because the 12 and the 13 before it didn't actually bring a lot of difference. If you look at the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13, it's basically pretty much the same in terms of design, whatever. It's just some internals, new processor, blah, 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 blah. So a lot of people was expecting that Apple is going to finally remove the notch in this new phone, and there are going to be some major changes, because it is, after all, a big number, 14, right? From 12, 13. If you look at the upgrade cycles, right, there's this TikTok thing, right? So you have small upgrade and then a major upgrade, small upgrade and then major. So it was due for the iPhone that the 14 was supposed to represent a major upgrade. And I think overall, in terms of the conversation, in terms of the numbers that we're seeing, the iPhone 14 has been a major disappointment.
Yeah, I would say so. But the thing is, unlike the previous iPhones, right, I think the biggest change will be the way they roll out the processors. Because, every time when they roll out a new chip, A14, A13 chips, right, it's always across all. Whichever size you pick, whether it's the cheapest one or the most expensive iPhone, you get the same high-performance processor.
You get the latest processor.
Latest processor, yeah. The best iPhone processor yet across the board. But this time, what actually took us by surprise is that the iPhone 14, the standard model, the non-Pro version, is running on the same chip as the previous generation.
Yep.
What you get is an extra GPU core, which Apple has been doing lately. You get a cheaper one, you get the same processor but one core GPU less.
Yep.
So if you want to get the latest and greatest processor from Apple, you had to get the iPhone 14 Pro. Because that came with the A16, whereas the standard iPhone 14 runs on A15.
Okay, so if you we're not going to talk about specs, because if you want to know more about the iPhone devices, iPhone 14, right, there's multiple reports and articles on our website, sorrychinchao.com, where we cover about the prices, the specs, whether you should get one, and if you're getting one, which one should you get, whether it's worth an upgrade, blah, 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 blah. All of them is there. The thing that we want to talk about today is a lot of people. So it became a disappointment, right? And then a lot of people now stop talking about iPhone 14. Aside from this thing called the dynamic island and this eSIM, which we will break down later, then the question comes back to, because there was a lot of I think there's a lot of anticipation of, since Samsung can make foldable devices, when is Apple going to make foldable devices? And Samsung has been making foldable devices since 3 years ago. It's already been the third or fourth generation. So what's taking Apple so long? And that's the thing that we want to cover. But before we go into all that, you need to know the context and the story behind it. And this is why we're talking about the Apple devices. I think for me, the iPhone 14, for example, is just a mishmash of recycled products, recycled parts. So they removed the iPhone 13 mini, which is the smaller version, 5.7 inch, right? So
5.4 inch.
5.4 inch. Now you have a 6.1 inch and a 6.7 inch, which is sad, because I think there is a really interesting niche. I think it's kind of like a fan favorite. For people who like small devices, but Apple killed that. Instead, what they produced was a bigger. So they went the other way. So instead of making a smaller phone, they went to a bigger phone. So the 14 Plus, which is a 6.7 inch, uses a old processor from the 13 Pro Max and the same display from the 13 Pro Max, but you don't get 3 cameras, you get 2.
Yeah. Oh, but the display, though, it's not, you don't get the 120 Hz, still get 60 Hz. So it's still like the standard screen. Just that you have a bigger display, bigger battery, without paying the Pro price.
Yeah, and if you're coming from the 13 or even if you're coming from the 12, there's really not much. I don't know. There's not much.
Reason to upgrade.
Yeah, there's
13,
not.
yeah, 13 not really, because like we mentioned, like it's always TikTok upgrade. They're always looking at those who are 2 generations behind. So iPhone 14, I guess they're looking at people who are currently using iPhone 12 or older, especially those who are on a 24-month contract.
Yeah, if you're still on 11, for sure. I mean, you should upgrade. I mean, not to say should. I mean, if you feel like, hey, you know, my phone is kind of old, I want like the newer phones with the new processors, for sure.
Yep.
The thing with Apple is that they've been so good with making their phones quite reliable. They last more than 5 years, and they still work well. The ecosystem, the iOS updates are supported across all the devices. I think that's one thing why people don't mind paying a premium for Apple devices. But then you come into like new devices and devices to get you excited. The iPhone 14, to be blunt, is quite a disappointment. So there's really not much to talk about with the 14.
And also, don't forget that the prices now are much more expensive.
More expensive,
Yeah,
right? How much more expensive?
Across the board, it's about 300 to 700 ringgit. So the base model at least, right? Last time the previous iPhone 13 was the 6.1 version. I think it's about 3899. Now you're looking at 4199 for the entry level 14 with 128 gig of storage. And looking at the higher end spectrum, like the 14 Pro Max, the 1 terabyte version, that's like 700 ringgit more expensive than the previous one.
And this is the first time that Apple has released a new version of an iPhone that has no variants below 3,000 ringgit.
4,000 ringgit.
Below 4,000 ringgit.
Yep.
So iPhones are more expensive now. With the 14, you don't get much. Now we'll talk about the 14 Pro. So this is where all the new stuff comes in.
Yep.
Most noticeably is, of course, the new display with the punch hole thing, which they call a dynamic island. And then we have the eSIM.
Yep, that's fully eSIM on in US, but I think that's like a preview of what's going to happen in future, I feel.
Yep. And then we have the new processor.
Yep, A16.
And a new 48 megapixel camera. So it's only one 48 megapixel camera, which is for the ultra wide, not the wide angle camera. Yeah. Okay, would you call this like a huge upgrade or an incremental upgrade?
For the Pro Max, I probably say it's a major upgrade because we need display, not just about the change of the notch to the dynamic island, but also it can push. It is much brighter than before because normally for us we always compare the displays, right? iPhone displays are normally not as bright as Samsung's, but for the new one, it's pretty bright. Like the peak brightness for HDR is 1600 and outdoors like 2000 nits, which is crazy. So okay, finally that's something I foresee to be more visible, especially when using it for Waze.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe for me, it's more of the looks thing, right? So maybe the looks is also different, lah. So if you want to get a new iPhone, you want to be seen with a new iPhone, the Pro versions are the one to get.
And speaking of size, right? If you look at the iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is triple camera, 12 Pro Max, 13 Pro Max, and 14 Pro Max, right? You put them side by side, right? You notice there's the biggest change. The triple camera bump, right? It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger for each generation, and the new one's huge. Because I've seen a photo of someone putting an iPhone 13 Pro Max into the case of an iPhone 14 Pro Max, and you can see there's a huge gap there. This is getting bigger. So
I wanted to ask, so can you use an iPhone 13 Pro Max case with an iPhone 14 Pro Max?
Nope, because the camera bump is different, totally different.
So he cannot fit the case inside the phone inside the case.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think? This punch hole dynamic island thing, I think it's a gimmick. No, I don't know. Okay, so I think Rory did a video and he says that it's something like really cool. I mean, it will always take Apple to think about how to make something that's like a defect look cool.
Yeah, it's like a for example, not a defect, like a disadvantage or design, like a design flaw, and turn it to something that's pretty cool.
That's a conversation piece.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, because the notch has been like the butt of all jokes, especially for Android camera. Oh, you got this silliness going to be intrusive, all that. So for the Android side, they've done a lot of things. Like for example, they made the notch smaller, like the dewdrop notch. Eventually, they come with punch holes, and most recently, there's under display cameras to hide the notch. And some even resort to like mechanical workarounds, like having a pop up camera, so that there's no notch or any anything that's hindering the display on the front.
Yep.
But for Apple, what they did was they used a punch hole, but it's a bit weird. It's like a pill shape, and Samsung did it with the S10.
Yep.
So instead of putting it in the middle, they do it as a corner,
On the
which
side, yep.
which I think is better because it's not really in the way. But what Apple did, right, it was that they make the user interface in a way that it embraces that pill,
that hole, yeah,
to make it look like, oh, it's part of the interface, it's part of design.
It's integrated into the OS.
Yes. Yeah.
It's part of the iPhone 14 experience.
Yes, exactly.
And I think only Apple can do that. And I'm not going to deny, the way it looks is cool. So we haven't actually gotten iPhone 14 devices yet. It's not available in Malaysia. It's only coming in September 16. Pre-order starts September 16. Available in markets, in stores on September 23rd. But there's already conversation about this dynamic island thing. One of them is because the iPhone 14, iPhone in general is so much larger, right? And it's quite difficult for you to go all the way up here.
Yep.
And the design element, I mean, you can interact with the dynamic island. You can press to reject calls or take calls and do other things with it. It doesn't make sense for you to move your thumb all the way up to that top. So one of the conversation is that this dynamic island is a flaw,
design flaw,
a UI mistake.
Yep.
But all of that is a conversation based on theoretical and stuff like that. I'm curious, but I think I want to not debunk that. I want to test it out, but I think you should give Apple more credit lah. I mean, it's a $1 trillion company, and iPhone 14 Pro is a huge investment for them to develop and to make it happen. They still want to get the sales. I'm sure there's a lot of smart and brilliant people doing the UI and all that. They don't want this product to fail. They wouldn't want to, do something so blatantly that's so blatantly a mistake. So for UI designers that's calling that this is a mistake because it's difficult to go up and touch the dynamic island, I think you should give Apple a try and wait until the iPhone 14 Pro goes into store and give it a try and see what happens.
For me, I have a counter to that. Like, for the way I look at it, right, this dynamic island, the alert notification, right, is similar to the pop-up notification that's appearing on the current iPhones. So it's like, it's there for you to see, but it's not necessary for you to tap on it unless you absolutely need to tap on it.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I think Rory pointed out was Apple also has the larger iPhones have this thing where, I don't know what's it called.
Reachability.
Yeah. So you can like actually squish the
top part down
to the middle, so that you can touch it with your thumb.
Yep.
I mean that's a cool feature. It's not new. I mean we have it on our iPhones, but we haven't tested it with the dynamic display because it's a physical hole.
Yep.
So if you activate reachability to bring down the whole thing,
will it bring the hole down?
The hole will not come down for sure. So how does it affect the UI?
Yep.
So we have to test that out. The other interesting thing is the eSIM. We'll talk about that a little. I just wanted to go into the other things that Apple mentioned during the iPhone launch. One of them was a G sensor that they put in. Apparently now Apple during the keynote of the iPhone 14, Apple came in. I think the people that worked at Apple all came in to say that the iPhone is a life-saving device. A number of people have their life saved because of the Apple Watch and the iPhone. So they are like riding that wave and now putting in technology into the iPhone 14. It has a G sensor that could detect up to 256 Gs. 256 Gs. Okay? You think about that. So when the announcement was made, everybody was like, whoa, 256G, that's massive. Now, let me put this into context. If you are into Formula One, there was this like driver during the 2021 season. His name is Roman Grosjean. He drove for Haas, and it was the last race of the season in Bahrain. He had a major crashed into a wall. His Formula One car broke into two. He was stuck in the car for like maybe 30 seconds. The car was on fire and all that. Can you guess? Can you put that in the comment section, right? How many Gs his car experienced during that crash? What is the peak G his car experienced during that crash? What do you think?
Maybe 100.
Okay, so his Formula One car that broke into two, he crashed into a barrier at 192 kilometers per hour. The maximum impact in Gs was 67, and his car broke into half. Now, if you take an iPhone And then why would you put a sensor that can measure 256G in a phone? Because if this thing, right, you drop it on the floor, also pecah.
Okay, you said just now you say 194 kilometers per hour, right?
92, yes.
92, right?
Uh-huh.
Plane crash. You could be going faster speeds than that.
But what's the point?
Because the sensor can. Okay, we also discussed this earlier, right? Just because sensor can detect 256 Gs doesn't mean your phone or device can survive
Exactly.
256 Gs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my point. Apple put the number there just to make you all go like, whoa, 256, and then you look at your phone, whoa, my phone can detect a 256G crash.
Yeah. Detect, not withstand.
If you suffer, so the other thing is you have the reason why they put the sensor in is because once the iPhone detected a crash, it will automatically call
SOS services.
SOS or emergency services or whatever. Automatically will do that. And then it has a sensor that could detect 256G. Now, imagine this. If you are in a crash where you suffered a peak impact of 250 Gs, that is 256 times your body weight, right? 1G is 1G.
Like gravity.
Yeah. Okay? 256 times. What do you think will happen to you?
If I wear helmet, I think it should be higher chance of survival.
You
I guess.
will be liquidated. The phone will not even be recognized. I don't know why the sensor is so gone.
Yeah.
It's pointless, this thing. I'm saying the feature is nice.
It's not pointless.
What
but the
annoys
numbers,
me is the statement to say that, this can withstand 256G.
They didn't say withstand. Can detect. That's the difference.
Okay, sorry, not
Yeah.
withstand. But the statement to say that we have a sensor in the iPhone and the Apple Watch
I think Apple Watch as well. I think. Yeah.
that can detect up to 250C. What's the point? Anyway,
Because the supplier gives high spec. Okay lah, no choice. Take lah 256 Gs. Can say, okay, not lah. Our customer profile don't need 256 Gs. Just get whatever sensor they have. But in a way, they're smart. Just because sensor can, right, it gives the impression that the phone
is
can
strong.
but it's not.
And then if you will show the B-roll, right? So they had like a demo, not a demo, like a promo reel,
Yes.
where a car it was like a crash test setup, and then the car was like rolling over upside down in a crash scenario kind of thing, and the camera was like focused on the iPhone on the dash, right? The iPhone was mounted on the dash, and the car was like turning turtle, tumbling on it, but the phone was stuck there.
Yeah.
What I want to know is where can you get that phone holder for that phone? I want that.
Yes, I want that as well. Because as you go through gravel roads,
Yeah.
like, your whole thing becomes loose.
I want a phone that can withstand a crash.
They can hold it so steady.
Yeah. So, if you break down communication devices, I think you mentioned this, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day, communication devices, memang the job is to allow you to call people during an emergency.
But what Apple's makes it seamless is that
They just make it sexier.
yeah, sexy. And not just that, like let's say for example, if you're unable, you're like unconscious, and then it detects a crash, it will try to give you an account. Okay, are you in a crash? Give it 10 seconds to respond. If you don't, then they automatically call emergency services. So I think that's helpful in the event that you are unable to get help yourself.
Yeah. So it's kind of, so I guess what they want to do is they want to ride the wave where they saw a trend where their devices by accident started calling. But we know you have the fall detection,
yes,
and all that stuff, right? So that started like kind of a lot of people. I don't know. iPhone users are clumsy or what? I don't know. So they've been falling over.
No, actually for elderly, like for example, those who like fainted, and then you're home alone.
Yep.
Yeah, and then what happens that the fall detection detects that fall, and then you don't respond.
Yep.
They will call your loved ones.
Yeah. So Apple saw that as a trend, and now they're riding that trend, and then they really want to claim the spot where their devices are literally lifesavers, which I think is quite unique, lah.
Yep.
It's kind of like an airbag or an insurance, right? It's something that you don't need, but if it happens,
you don't know you need until it
happy,
happens.
You're happy that you have it. But the caveat here, SOS, it's only available for America and Canada. Oh no, so that's the satellite thing, right?
Yeah. Another thing they introduced is satellite communication.
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so this was rumored, I think, since the last iPhone. People were Apple's working on a satellite communication service that you can use to communicate even without cellular Wi-Fi connection. So it turns out that's like a SOS satellite service. So what happens that if you're, let's say, jungle trekking or exploring in the middle of nowhere and something happened, you want to get help. So your iPhone can actually use satellites to get basically send an SOS. So that basically works like a like a messaging service. So what happens is, let's say you need help, no reception, zero coverage, you can actually use your iPhone to get help. But the thing is, this is only available. You can use it anywhere in the world as long as you're in US and Canada.
You can use it anywhere in the world as long as you are US or Canadian, right?
No, you only if you're in US or in Canada.
Oh, does it mean that let's say if I go to the Himalayas and
No.
Okay, it doesn't work like that.
It's only it's only selected areas for now, and it's free for 2 years only.
Oh, not for US and Canada users, but for people who are in US and Canada. So if I'm a Malaysian user, I go hiking in the US.
Yep.
And something happened to me, I can
can
still
use
use the SOS thing.
Yep.
What do they send? Like, do they send like location data?
So here's the interesting part, because like normally they don't give you like a open SMS box like, oh, help. You're going to waste a lot of bandwidth because they say that it takes about 15 seconds to send, up to a couple minutes, depending on your coverage and also the line of sight and all that stuff. So what they did was, they had, from the demo, they show like a template, like, okay, what's emergency, what's the location. So you fill up the template first, then they send the message one shot.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, a lifesaver tool. Not sure whether everybody's going to use it, but it's cool to say that you can tap into satellites to send emergency signals.
Yep. And also depends how wide it's going to be available, because right now I think it depends on the agreements with satellite providers. So right now I guess they have signed up agreements with a provider that's covering US and Canada. I'm not sure when they're going to extend it to the rest of the world. In fact, Huawei actually did it earlier when they launched the Huawei Mate 50, which is similar, using satellite as well to send SOS.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they announced it like a few days before the iPhone event. But then again, Huawei without GMS is going to be tough.
Huawei's not sexy.
Yep.
And this satellite thing is a paid service, so it's free for a year.
2 years.
For 2 years
Yes.
for iPhone users, and then after that you have to pay for it. They didn't mention how much it's gonna cost.
Yep.
And yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of the new stuff coming from iPhone. You get like a lot of software improvements lah.
Basically from iOS 16.
Yeah, the low light is better, things like that. Not really something to shout home about. iOS 16, the new features, I think, across the board, if you're in 12, 13, you get a lot of the new features anyway. So, like, how much better can a camera get? Like, how much better can a 48 megapixel camera with the pixel binning thing get?
I think camera is a given. Like, you have to improve camera in every iteration. So I guess more of the AI enhancement to improve low light. I think that's something that's expected from every new iPhone.
Yeah.
It can't be worse.
Yeah.
So, and another thing is that they added autofocus for all the front cameras now.
Front cameras.
Yes.
Yeah, autofocus.
Yep. For the iPhone first time.
It's not like you use the front camera, it's like, oh, I wish this has autofocus.
I think it should be sharper now, like, I guess.
Yeah. The other big thing I think you wanted to talk about was eSIM.
Yes.
So for US users, there's no more physical SIM, which I think is like really great. I hope like all other operators or all other device manufacturers should follow that lah.
But for me, there's two things about this lah. Because for me personally, right, we all know eSIM has been around for quite a while. I think since the iPhone XS and above, eSIMs have been around, and that actually started to enable dual SIM for iPhone users. Because most of the time, iPhones users, you only get one physical SIM slot, unless you buy the iPhone from China and Hong Kong. Yeah. So with that, they can actually enable 2 SIM cards. But one thing about eSIM that Apple says that it's more secure, which is kind of true. Because you think about it, right? If let's say you lose your phone, the person might not be able to access your phone, but they can inject your SIM card and then take your SIM and do something else. Especially if you do not SIM lock the actual SIM card, so you can use it to get OTP, which is scary. So eSIM is like everything's digital. But the problem with eSIM for me is that it's a bit hassle, at least for Malaysia.
Why is it hassle?
Because it's not available on every single telco plans. Normally for postpaid, only a couple of prepaid. I think UDO is one of it. And whenever you want to change device, right, you need to request a new eSIM QR code. And I think most telcos will charge you as if you're getting a new SIM card. Whereas a physical SIM, you just pop up the SIM tray, switch it, no issues, no need to go to the shop whatsoever. But what Apple did, right, with the new eSIM management is that you are able to move eSIMs from one iPhone to another iPhone using Bluetooth.
Nice.
Which is nice. Which I'm not sure whether this is a universal thing or just limited to iPhone phone. So what I'm seeing is only iPhone does it.
Yeah, I think the technology is available. It's just iPhone is doing it quite well lah. It's just like how they do AirDrop. So I think Apple made AirDrop available for iPhones first.
Yep.
But that technology is available, and then after that, Android follow up. Android has something called Android Share or something.
Nearby share,
which is similar, but because Android is so fragmented, right? You have different brands, and different brand calls it different things, and the way they do it is different, so it's not as seamless as iPhone. And I think this eSIM thing can do that. And I like it because it also reduces this one major scary thing that I have with physical SIM card is spoofing. So with eSIMs, you really eliminate the capability of scammers to spoof your SIM card. So those are the innovations. The other smaller announcements were the AirPods Pro 2. Again, no big deal. Small updates.
Yeah, they say better drivers, better ANC, and then the charging. Okay, here's an interesting part. The charging case, right? Not only supports MagSafe, you can use your Apple Watch charger to charge it.
Yeah.
And has a lanyard hole for you to plug your
string. The biggest innovation, right?
Yeah.
Lanyard hole.
Yes.
Because you know why? They want to eliminate people who buy third-party cases. A lot of people with the AirPods Pro, they buy third-party cases because the third-party case have the loop for the lanyard.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool, right? Yeah.
Now it's like, no need. Don't cover your iPhone Pro, AirPod Pro. Just use it. We built in the hook, the lobang for you.
Yeah.
No need to buy the case.
Yes. Or maybe buy our accessories instead.
Buy our lanyard. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you have the Apple Watches. Nothing new there again.
The only thing that's major, I would say, is the temperature sensor for better ovulation tracking.
Okay, cool. For those who ovulate, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, I think it's new because previously, right, for women, you need to track your period manually. So this done automatically, it can detect based on temperature.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a convenience for the women.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Then you have the Apple Watch Ultra. Apple is touting it to be the ultimate explorer's smartwatch.
AKA Garmin killer, supposedly.
And a lot of the media people are reporting that, this is gonna kill Garmin, blah 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 blah. You know what, media people, right? Please don't jump to things like this. I don't know why you do this. If you are not even remotely a professional explorer, if you are a weekend warrior athlete lah, I want to say like me lah, right? So I ride my bicycle as much as I can. I do running and all that as much as I can. I stopped using Apple Watch simply because it does not provide the telemetry and the battery life that I need with my devices, with my sports devices. So with Garmin, for example, if I ride my bicycle, I have my Garmin Edge 1080 Solar. I have also my Phoenix 5. If I go diving, I have my Garmin Descent. It's a Mark 1. So the Apple Watch Ultra, Apple says can do all these things. Right?
Can replace all those watches to one. And look better in Starbucks as well.
No, because you know why? Okay, so for example, the Garmin Descent, right? I can go for a diving trip for a week, right, and not worry about charging the device. Apple's Apple Watch Ultra maximum battery life, which will be enabled later in the year, 60 hours.
Yep, that's a low power mode. So I
So
don't know
if
how much
you
it
go
reduces.
hiking or if you go climbing Mount Kinabalu, for example, where there's no power, you have to bring an additional cable to charge your iPhone, to charge your Apple Watch, an additional power bank to power your Apple Watch, because you'll have a power bank to power your iPhone. I mean, if you're an explorer, you want to minimize the things you pack.
But if you're an iPhone user, you're going to bring a power bank.
Yes, you will.
Yeah.
But you want to maximize that for your iPhone and not share it with Apple Watch that you need to charge every other day.
But here's the argument though. Like, okay, I understand. I agree that Garmin is like basically they're the experts in this field, right? In terms of telemetry, they give you more data compared to what Apple Watch has to give. But Apple Watch is not targeting those who are hardcore. They are targeting those who think they're hardcore. Yeah. Because like when it first announced, wow, this is awesome. Because firstly, the design, right? It looks chunky. The screen is not the curved glass; it's flat glass with some extra
It's sapphire glass.
Sapphire glass with extra enforcement, the sides to make it look rugged and tough. You got extra action button. You can dive with it up to 100 meters. Blah blah blah. But despite the chunk and the bulk, right, they only double the battery life from 18 hours to 36 hours.
Yeah.
No more operations.
Yeah.
We're like, what? Like, it's only 36 hours. That's not even 2 days.
Yeah, and I don't like the interface. I mean, the Apple Watch, don't get me wrong, I feel like the Apple Watch is the best smartwatch you can get right now. That's true. But it is, at the end of the day, a smartwatch.
Yep.
If you want to go climbing, go diving, go cycling, go hiking, exploring, right, you're going to need specialist watches. And that's where Garmin comes into play. They've been in the industry for so long, and their interface is better. So, like, okay, this is the dissent that I have, right? The buttons actually, I like operating with buttons more than with the screen, especially when you're wearing gloves.
Yep, agree.
Especially when you're climbing Kilimanjaro, wherever your hands are freezing, you got gloves. You cannot use it with the Apple Watch. I don't know how they're gonna do that.
That's why they give extra button at the sides, on the left side now. So on the Apple Watch now, the Ultra, you have the digital crown, you got the side button on the right, and you have one more action button on the left side.
For you to action.
Yeah.
I think what Rory said that, the Apple Watch Ultra, for those who need to track your hiking to Starbucks, right?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's the attempt to look hardcore, but not really for the hardcore people.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they know who their audience are. They know that, whatever that they make, people are going to buy.
They're going to sell millions more than Garmin, definitely.
Yeah,
for
sure. This and it's about like almost 4,000 ringgit, right?
3,799, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's still cheaper than like a serious Garmin watch lah. For example, like a Garmin smartwatch is going to be about $4,000. So
to sum it up, for those who who has a budget for Garmin, but not as serious as Garmin, but want to look like Garmin, this is the watch for you.
but don't like Garmin.
Yeah, don't like Garmin. So no touch screen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. So to summarize the Apple launch event, I don't have one word lah, but for me, I feel like, okay, the formula, they really follow the formula lah.
Yeah, for me, it's like
everything is expected.
Yeah, expected. I mean, you just make incremental upgrades where it matters, where people who are using the old iPhone, they need change. And for me, it works for them because even like there's a report saying that in the US itself, the total iPhone sold is already exceeding Android in the US. So it looks like Apple is very strong, very dominant in several areas. So they know this recipe works. Just continue with it. Why you want to change the ball game, right?
Yeah,
they're comfortable.
Yeah, and at the same time, they really made a number of improvements from the 12th. Actually, I think I mentioned in one of the shows that Apple has actually kind of like won me over. I have an Apple Watch. I'm using a MacBook. I have iPhone. I'm already sucked into the ecosystem because of the convenience. And they've only made it better because with every iteration of the iOS software, with every iteration of the Mac OS software and the iPad OS software. So I can't fault them for that. Now the coming back to the question that a lot of people have been wondering, right? So when will Apple make a foldable iPhone? So I'm gonna ask you first. What do you think?
I think not anytime soon because I think we've discussed it before. Right? Apple doesn't want to be the first. It's not about being the first. It's about having an excellent product which really delivers with no compromises. Because we've seen that before. Like when Apple released iPhone, right? Everyone's jumping on 3G. Hey, why are you launching a 2G phone? They took their own sweet time and they launched the iPhone. They don't even have copy and paste function.
Yep.
So they took the time to refine.
No Bluetooth.
Nope. Yeah, I think it's Bluetooth, but you cannot send files whatsoever. Yeah.
Yep.
So they took the time to improve the user experience. And I think in terms of a foldable device, despite being like third or fourth generation already, I don't think foldable screens have reached a standard that's acceptable by Apple. Because number one, the crease. I don't think that's something that Apple will accept. Because until today, even the latest Galaxy Z Fold 4, Flip 4, you still see the crease. Even the new laptops from Asus, the Asus OLED Flex, the one that has a old screen for the whole thing, that also has a visible crease. I don't think Apple will release a product with such a defect.
But don't you think that kind of like counters your point where we talked about the dynamic display, that punch hole thing? It's kind of like a defect as well, or like a design flaw.
Yep.
So a foldable device has the crease. It's kind of like a design flaw. So why don't they have like a similar experience, like a dynamic island for foldable devices?
But the crease is even worse because the crease is not like a punch hole. It's not a functional thing. It's basically a limitation of the screen. So there's no way for that
a
outcome.
byproduct lah.
Yeah, unless Apple might, I believe that Apple might have considered using foldable displays. They maybe could have dozens of products in the office right now. But I guess if they want to do foldables, right, they probably need to find a mechanism where you can fold the screen without that crease at all to overcome that.
I don't think they're gonna be bothered doing that
because
they're not the technology developers. I think they're not hardware people.
Because look at the iPhone 10. Remember when it first came out, right? I think compared to old smartphones in the market, nobody made a screen with such a thin bezel that is symmetrical all around. Because like, look at Androids, when they did the full screen displays, right? You have the thick notch and thick chin, whatever, the thick forehead and chin. So Apple's the only one that can really stretch it to the edge because they fold the screen at the
That's
corners.
how they use flexible displays.
Yeah,
foldable
so
displays.
that's how they master. So they're not the first to do it. So they set like in a way the benchmark. Like, hey, this is how close you go to the bezels, and this is how we overcome it.
I mean, like, okay, instead of using a flexible display to fold, we're using a flexible display to maximize your display area.
Yes.
For example,
Yeah.
right? Or a curved display.
Correct.
The other thing is to add to that, right? In terms of the hardware stuff, you also have to look into the ecosystem and the operating system, right?
Yeah, where does it place?
So we have Apple's segmentation is quite clear actually. Not so clear lah. There's kind of like some gray areas here. So the iPhone is clear. iPhone is iPhone, but within there you already have like what's available now is SE, 12, 13, and 14, right? Those are the ranges that's available for as new. You can get new iPhone SE, new iPhone 12, new iPhone 13, new iPhone 14. So it's just a matter of like what is your budget, what is your price, and what is your preference there in the iPhone segment. But iPhone is iPhone. Then you move to iPad. So iPad, the lower end iPads, the Air, Mini, and the iPad is clear. It's a tablet.
Yeah.
Then you move to the Pros. So the smaller Pro again maybe is a tablet. Then you go to the 12-inch Pro.
Yep.
Which is kind of like a laptop.
Yeah.
But not quite.
They're targeting it as a laptop replacement, but not there yet.
Yeah, but not quite. But kinda. So like if you're in between, like you don't want a laptop, but you need a laptop, then maybe you can get a 12-inch Pro.
Especially the iPad OS, I will say that's a major improvement because previously iPad is just running on iOS. It's like basically okay, an iOS on the phone but slightly bigger. But now they've added so many multitasking features in the dock. So it's like really smack right in between the Mac OS and iOS.
Yeah, so it's a good like bridge, right? So if you're an iPhone user, the Pro Max is still too small for you, and having a laptop is just an inconvenience because you just want to take a tablet because the battery life is longer, blah blah blah. The 12-inch Pro is there. Then we have Macs, right? So we have the MacBook Air, which is the entry level. Then we have the Pros. Then you have the lower end Pros, the high end Pros. It's clear. That's the computer. You have the phones, the computers, and the tablets. Now we talk about foldables.
Yeah.
If Apple made a foldable iPhone, where would it sit in this ecosystem? And they just recently separated iPad and iPhone OSs. Previously, iPads and iPhones use the same OS, which is iOS.
Yep.
Now it's iOS for the iPhone and iPad OS for the tablets, for the iPads, and then you have the Mac OS. So if they're gonna develop a foldable, which is kind of like an iPad and an iPhone in one,
Yep.
What do they have in their ecosystem to support that? They don't.
Yeah, and it's really right now it's just nice, right? Your phone, tablet, and computer.
Yeah.
You're gonna have another one. Who are you targeting?
Yes.
Because you want to target the power users, you have the iPad Pros, which are doing a pretty good job, and you want to put that in a change it to a form factor.
Yeah.
I don't see how it's going to fit in properly.
Yep.
Because that's going to cannibalize the sales of the iPad Pro Max.
So I guess, right, I think you nailed it on the head when you say that Apple is not interested to be the first, and they're also not interested to use technology the way people think that they are going to use it. Like you have a flexible display. The common thinking would be, okay, you have a flexible display, let's see if we can fold it.
Yep.
Because that's what people want, for example. But Apple is like, no, we don't need a folding display because the Pro Max is already big enough, and if you need a bigger display, you want a tablet, not a phone.
Yep.
So that's how they dictate the user experience. And I think that's one of the secret recipes of Apple. I think they have to make these really difficult decisions. I'm sure inside Apple, there are people saying, hey, we got to push this, we got to do foldables, the data is showing. But they're saying, okay, let's look at our DNA and our core and our philosophy, and where are our users in terms of them experiencing our products. And the question we wanted to answer during this episode is, when will Apple make a foldable iPhone? And I think the answer, looking at the data that we have right now and how Apple users are segmented using by the products, there is no room for Apple's lineup for a foldable for a foldable iPhone.
I would say at least the next 5 years.
Even okay, I'm trying to think in the next 5 years. There is still no room. Something has got to give, right? Let's see, you're moving the Macs this way.
Mm-hmm.
You're moving the iPhones this way. Then you have the tablets in the middle. You want to put a foldable. It's in between the iPhone and the
Tablet,
iPads.
Yep.
So you either skip SE or Pro Max or something has to give, or else they just have too many products.
I mean, depends on the trends as well. Like, remember last time when Apple first started the iPhones, right? When most Android devices are going big phones, Note, the phablets, remember back then, 5 years ago, phablets, Apple refused to go big screen. Say, this is the perfect size. You don't need anything bigger, 5-inch, 4.6 inch is the best size because, it's reachable. We time with all corners. There's no need to go for a bigger screen. Eventually, looking at data that they can see there's a strong demand for
until
bigger
people
screen.
got used to bigger displays.
Yes. Then they make the shift. So I feel that this is where
when people get used to foldables.
Yes, then it's confident enough that Apple said, you know what, the technology has matured. We see a strong demand for it, and we see the best way to do a folding user interface. Then that's when they will come in. Because right now, foldables, kudos to Samsung for starting get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
But the screen's not perfect yet. The user interface is still. It's getting better, but of course, no thanks to Google, because Google is supposed to be driving the foldable displays, but they're not. Samsung's doing that, and only recently they introduced Android L, which finally provides proper multitasking support natively. So Google is lagging behind. So Google, I would say, they're dragging Samsung down in terms of foldable displays. But for Apple, since they control the hardware and the software, I think they can do a better job.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think that's pretty much it. So. The short answer is not now, maybe in the next 5 years. So maybe you'll come back to this episode in the next 5 years and see whether we actually predict the future once again in Let's Talk About. So that's pretty much it. So if you're interested, we are also available on podcasts. Just search for Let's Talk About, and we're available on all of the best podcast platforms out there. Let's Talk About Sorry Chincha, we're there. If you're listening to us on podcasts, if you like the show, give us a thumbs up. Share it with your friends who you think will also enjoy the discussions that we're having on our show, and subscribe to our podcast as well, because that helps us a lot. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube, thank you very much for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you like the show. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And then, of course, your comments and suggestions, right? We love to hear from you guys. What do you think of the new iPhone that's been launched? What do you think of a foldable iPhone? Do you think it's gonna work? Do you even want a foldable display, a foldable phone? We talked, foldable phones, yes, there are merits to it, but there are also significant trade-offs. Number one is the front screen is narrow, it is much heavier, battery life could be less, and also the durability of the displays, right? And that crease. Yeah. So what do you guys think? Let us know in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you guys. If you're listening to us on podcast and you also want to share your thoughts, you can drop us a voice note at
Let's Talk About at soyachincha.com.
And we're more than happy to hear from you as well. Okay, so that's pretty much it. This is me, Amin.
And this is Alex.
Catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.